What is up, guys? Ninja Nick back with another round of the Japan Champions League. Looks like we have yet another Chien-Pao based deck here on the left. And what are we seeing on the right? Oh my god, more Chien-Pao. It's literally all Chien-Pao. Why is it all Chien-Pao? Alright, when we get into the day 2 games, I'm sure there's not going to be as much Chien-Pao. I apologize to you guys that there's this much Chien-Pao coming out of the Champions League. But I do not control the matches that get featured, okay? Those sleeves on the left, though, are probably my single favorite Pokemon sleeves that have ever come out. And I have been considering picking up a pack of those. But when I was at Pittsburgh Regionals, vlog out, by the way. If you haven't seen that, check it out. I did consider picking them up, but they were $16, and I would never use them because I don't like the shuffle feel of Pokemon branded sleeves, unfortunately. I prefer Dragon Shields and Game Genics myself. But they really look sick. Greninja, of course, being my favorite Pokemon of all time. Obviously, because Ninja Nick, whatnot. So we do start the Luminion here. We are able to go first, but do start the Luminion, and that is very unfortunate. Now, I want to say that this is actually the Chien-Pao deck we saw on the very first match, because I recognize the sleeves. So maybe this is them yet again, but these two players are both 0-1. They both lost their first round, so we'll have to see if that was due to misplays or if they're just playing a more bricky version of the deck. We'll just have to see. Sometimes you do just get unlucky in Pokemon. Of course, that round 1 game that we did see at the very first point was just, you know, one player got set up and neutered the opponent's setup with an Avery and a cross switcher. So, will one of our players be able to do that to the other in this game? We will just have to see. It could always just be a slugfest. So the Nest Ball being the first card being played from this player on the left, we're going to be able to search our deck for any one basic Pokemon to put onto the bench, and it is going to be that Radiant Greninja. Perfectly going together with those Greninja sleeves. But as I said, you don't want to generally play sleeves that reveal what your deck is. So maybe you're playing Greninja sleeves and your opponent assumes you're playing a deck that has Greninja in it. Although, I guess that doesn't reveal too much information to your opponent because half the decks in the format play Radiant Greninja. I mean, even Miraidon sometimes plays it. But it would be funny if you're playing some sort of, like, I don't know, Venusaur EX deck from 151 and you're playing with, like, Greninja sleeves. That's the kind of thing that would throw your opponent off. So, double battle VIP pass is always the greatest start that you can see from a deck. So we are going to be able to get down just a Frigibax, it looks like, off of this one. I mean, if that's all you need, that's all you need. Also gets the Alolan Vulpix V down. That is a very interesting card inclusion for the deck. I do actually kind of like it. It's a little bit weird trying to fit it into the deck list, though. But the VSTAR, which does pop up on screen next to me here, does do 160 for 3 energies, one of which has to be water. And basic Pokemon can't hit into it. Or no, Pokemon... Was it Pokemon with abilities? It's Pokemon with abilities can't hit into it. So that prevents Palkia V-Star and Chien-Pao both from being able to hit into it. And Radiant Greninja as well. So that is pretty much all the attackers here. So I think it would be really great. Even though it would be perfect to get our own Radiant Greninja out and knock out both of the Frigibax at the same time here, I think that the threat of the Alolan Vulpix V-Star is too great. You have to allow your opponent to be able to get their Baxcalibur online in order to try to cross-switch her up that Vulpix. And if we cannot do either of those plays, we're probably pretty boned, in all honesty. We do have the Skater's Park coming down here. That does allow you to retreat, putting the energies back into your hand instead of into the discard pile. So we will be able to keep that energy that is currently on the Luminion, and we're going to go for an Ino as well. That can that can be a little scary if the opponent didn't have the Vulpix VSTAR in the hand yet. That can help them get to it. But it looks like, I think they got Iono'd into Rare Candy Baxcalibur with Superior Energy Retrieval, and that is a pretty powerful hand they got put into. That is kind of crazy. We are going to go for our own Shivery Chill here now, searching our deck for 2 water energies to put into our hand. And yeah, I think that it looks like we're not going to be attacking into the Vulpix here. And yeah, I think that that could just lose you the game. You do not have any potential attackers in this matchup with no abilities. You would have to be playing like exactly your own Alolan Vulpix VSTAR in order to have any out to it. So, yep, there is the Rare Candy Baxcalibur here from our left player. Oh, and we didn't even take a knockout on the Chien-Pao either. Oh, no knockout whatsoever from this player on the right. It looks like this Champions League is not going well for them whatsoever. So, if we can see that now evolved Vulpix VSTAR come out and start swinging, it could just be over. Nothing can hit into that. Your opponent's going to have to cross-switcher around it every turn, boss around it every turn. Although I do suppose that you do have enough 2-prizers in play. Maybe your opponent could just go boss and cross-switcher every turn around the Vulpix and try to take prizes that way. But if that were the case, I would say at this point just don't bench any more 2-prize Pokemon. You let them try to bring up the Chien-Pao, you let them try to bring up the Arceus, let them take those knockouts, and then they still have to take 2 knockouts on 1-prizers, and they probably don't play enough bosses orders in the deck. You can only cross-switcher 2 times if you're playing 4 copies, because you have to play 2 of them in combination at the same time in order to be able to get that effect off to even use them whatsoever. There is no effect for playing 1 cross-switcher. You actually can't play 1 cross-switcher. Which is a lot unlike some cards that we saw in previous formats. There was, I forgot exactly what the card was called, but it was like some sort of like double catcher. You'd play 2 and bring up your opponent's active Pokemon. But if you only played 1, you could draw until you had 3 cards in your hand. So it was a little bit more of a consistent type of play. But at least this cross switcher does also allow you to switch your own Pokemon as well. But we are going to get the Alolan Vulpix VSTAR fully loaded up here, and we are going to hit for 160. Not enough to take a knockout, but it will be enough to take a 2-shot on any single one of these 2-prize Pokemon and 1-shots on any of the 1-prize Pokemon. It will also be nice if maybe we see even a Vitality Band, but like a Choice Belt or Defiance Band or something. No, Defiance Band wouldn't work because you'll probably be ahead on prizes. Yeah, so like Vitality Band or Choice Belt, so you can 1-shot the Luminion, because you are 10 damage short of being able to do that. It'd also be really funny if in the mirror you were playing Radiant Alakazam instead of Radiant Greninja. You could move like 20 off of the active Chien-Pao to the Luminion, so you could 1-shot it later in the game. Or I guess just 10 would be fine as well, but might as well do the full 20. Because you're knocking out the Chien-Pao either way. And yeah, it looks like just a pass. Cannot do anything into this Alolan Vulpix. And I do believe that's probably just the game there. So as always, guys, do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe for the YouTube algorithm. Now, we'll see how this ends up. There could be an out to the Vulpix VSTAR that I'm not aware of that's in this deck. We'll just have to see. Maybe there is like a path to the peak. Could always shut off your own abilities. And the exact wording on Path to the Peak actually says that the Roblox Pokemon in play have no abilities. So that would actually remove the ability text from your own Pokemon V and EX, thus allowing them to attack into the Vulpix VSTAR. So, you know, I think it would be pretty unintuitive, a little bit backwards thinking to even have Path to the Peak in your own deck, but it could be a tech for the mirror, and maybe an unintended tech because you're not expecting the Alolan Vulpix to be played in any deck currently in the meta. But it would work on yourself to be able to get around it. So do we have any outs to this Vulpix whatsoever? We have taken one prize card now with the Vulpix. Are we going to be able to respond to that one prize with our own 1 or 2 prizes of our own? Do we have the double cross switcher? Do we have the boss's orders? Do we have the superior energy retrieval? We are going to be able to use our Shivery Chill to search our deck for 2 energy, but will that be enough? We do not have a Radiant Greninja in play, so we cannot be using those energies as a way to draw cards right now. We have the Bibarel, but I think we have too many cards in hand right now for that to be very useful. Yeah, it looks like we probably have 7+ cards in our hand at this point. We're going to attach an energy to the Palkia VSTAR, and yeah, our hand is almost entirely energy. It looks like there's like 5 of them there, and just going to be a pass of the turn. Yeah, that is very unfortunate. You can keep thinning the deck of more energies, but where will you go from there? What can you even do? Just another 160 to the active here. Yeah, so this player on the left feels pretty content and is in complete control of the game state right now. The entire board is being pretty punished by that Alolan Vulpix. It's so funny that such a small, tiny, adorable little creature can just have such a massive impact on the game at times. But the Pokemon TCG does like to print some very interesting cards that are of Pokemon that you would not always expect. I mean, I'd say like 50% of the Garbodor cards that are printed are actually extremely meta relevant. I mean, one of the last Garbodors we saw was even played in some weird Mew Shedinja deck that we did see on stream at one regional. It took me until the end of Game 2 to realize what the deck even accomplished, but it was fun to see that go off. But of course there was the Garbotoxin Garbodor that shut off all abilities if it had a tool card on it. There was the Trashalanche Garbodor that did damage based on the amount of item cards in the opponent's discard pile. There are always other ones. There was a Sigilif that was really great in a tool drop deck back in the black and white era because it could have 4 tools on it and it was a 90 HP Pokemon. You could always just search with like even a level ball. A lot of Pokemon that see no relevance in VGC or even just in Pokemon whatsoever in any form. People don't usually use them in their own like Let's Plays or anything if they can avoid it. Can just shine in the TCG because they just decide to print a pretty decent card. It looks like we are just using superior energy retrievals to thin our own hand, which is a very interesting thing. Discarding 2 energies for the superior energy retrieval. You cannot get back the energies that you discard for the cost of superior energy retrieval. So it looks like we played a couple of those just to thin our own hand. I'm not quite sure what the point of that is. I mean, I guess you're trying to dig for some sort of out to the Vulpix. I think at this point, if you're even still playing the game, I mean, I guess there's no reason not to continue trying, but maybe there is something like a Path to the Peak in this deck to try to get around the Vulpix, but that seems like a huge waste of resources to just try to get into a position where you can even take just 1 or 2 prize cards. And that is, like, if you're afraid of, like, say you're playing Gardevoir EX, and, you know, none of your attackers, they all have abilities. So none of them can hit into the Alolan Vulpix. Alolan Vulpix, very good against the Gardevoir deck. You could always just play Spiritomb in the deck. Shuts off your own Zacian V's Roar of the Sword ability. And then all of a sudden it's a Pokemon with no abilities and it can hit into the Alolan Vulpix. So a card that would be intended as a counter to Mew can also be a counter to Alolan Vulpix in a pretty roundabout way because it does shut off your own Pokemon. So if you're in your own local area, you really love playing Gardevoir, you have no way around some opponent that is always playing Alolan Vulpix against you, just throw a Spiritomb in the deck. It will help you against Mew most of the time, but then also you go against a Vulpix, you shut off your own Zacian V, and then you one-shot it. I would recommend doing that in the deck that plays 11 to 12 Psychic Energies. I wouldn't recommend that necessarily in the deck that plays Reversals. Found that out kind of the hard way. In Pittsburgh, the Reversals were really strong, but I could never really get great attacks off with Zacian. And I always love my Zacian Sky Seal Stone play. That's how I win a lot of games against things like Mew. And since I decided to put in the couple Reversal Energy, I only had 10 basic Psychic, and then I just prized too many during the games where I needed to Sky Seal Stone. Or I just prized the Zacian because I only had one, and I had no double Zacian in my deck, or even the Heavy Ball, which I did have in my 12 energy version, because it's more like Turbo out Zacian. So we are going to Superior Energy Retrieval. We are going to get back some more energy cards out of our discard pile. Looks like maybe just 2. Not too bad to get out. We were able to escape rope out of the active spot, and now we're going to go for the Greninja. Ooh, we might actually be able to take a couple... Oh, we're able to take our final 3 prize cards. We're going to clean up that Chien-Pao that already has damage on it, as well as the Frigibax that is on the bench, being able to take the last 3 prizes that we have and win the game. So, able to stop our Vulpix lock there at that point. And yeah, it looks like, I think in this tournament they're doing maybe digital match slips, because I see them take out their phones at the end of each match every time. And I would really like to see that come out in the TCG. Usually there's Wi-Fi in most convention centers. Usually there is enough signal. Sometimes it's a little hard during the first few rounds to get your pairings loaded, because everybody's trying to access it at the same time. But I think digital match slips would be a lot better than the paper ones, because there were some rounds in Pittsburgh where we had like a 20-minute wait before we even got a match slip. Like, I know a couple tables over from me, one of the players was trying to just scoop to the opponent. They're like, yeah, I forgot to drop, I'm just going to give you the win. And the judges made them sit there for 20 minutes while we waited for the match slips to come out, because they were having like a printer error. And that's it. So we will see you guys next time. As always, again, do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe.